She was very cold, distant, and stonewalling extremely hard. I was in a very, very dark, dark place. The divorce never really came up till probably 6 months into the separation. Suicide was on my mind constantly, although I think I would never, ever do it. But in the state of mind I was in, it was there.
Later in today's video, you're going to get to meet Josh's wife. Heard
Right.
about you for a long time now. It's very, very nice to meet you with love. What would you tell that guy right now that's watching this video that is thinking about checking out because he thinks his life is over because he doesn't see a path to restore his marriage and he's tried some things and they just haven't worked?
First, I would tell him,
You just got to be coachable. Please help me serve other men that are facing an unwanted divorce, save their marriage. And you can do that by pressing the like button, but more importantly, subscribing to the channel. And so that you're notified of every new video that I put out to help you restore your marriage. Change the settings to all whenever you press the bell button. Hey guys, today I've got Joshua with me. He is sharing a client success story of his experience of the DivorceStoppers program. Whenever I met Joshua, he was facing an unwanted divorce, and Joshua has volunteered to come on and share his experience of what worked, where he was before he started the program, what else he had tried that worked and didn't work, and then once he started the program, where he was at on that day, and then his walk as he went through it. So if you're a man and you're facing an unwanted divorce or separation forever, and you're trying to attract your wife back, but she's told you she's done, and your friends and your family and your pastors even told you, if you love her, let her go. Bro, move on, move forward, and you're feeling hopeless. Sometimes you're even like in the worst case of depression or something like that. Joshua has volunteered to come on to share what's on his heart. Joshua is a servant leader. He has a heart, and he truly does believe what the Bible says when it says that iron sharpens iron. And I've witnessed that firsthand with Joshua in the community. So, Joshua, welcome to the program. I appreciate you coming on to help other people that are currently in the shoes that you were wearing. And we now know that you've sized up. So I appreciate you coming on and sharing your experience of the program and also where you were, where you went, and where you currently are. Joshua, if you would, just go ahead and introduce yourself and kind of share exactly before I met you, where were you and what had you tried to save your marriage and what was the state of your marriage the day you and I met?
my name is Joshua.
Yeah.
When I met Denver, I was in a very, very dark, dark place. Suicide was on my mind constantly, although I think I would never, ever do it. But in the state of mind I was in, it was there.
Extreme feelings of hopelessness,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
What was making you feel that way, Joshua? Like what was she saying or doing? And then where were you at in your life? Were the feelings because of it looked like the relationship was going to be over, or were there other factors that influenced your emotional factors of where you were when you and I met?
Just the way she was acting and pretty much thinking that it was completely over with.
How was she acting? Share that experience because there's other men that might be in a place right now where their wife is acting the same exact way, which is making them think, time to move on. I need to find a divorce program that helps me get through divorce instead of something that could help me save this. How was she acting in a way that was so conducive to the emotional state that you were in?
She was very cold, distant, and stonewalling extremely hard.
How long had you guys been going through that?
Roughly, probably it started 3 or 4 years before we separated. And me being the man I am, I never saw it.
Gotcha. So she had been walking these emotions way before she actually confronted you and said, I'm not happy in this relationship anymore. How long had you been in a state of depression or feelings of hopelessness before I met you?
Roughly about 6 months.
About 6 months. And were you guys still living together? Were you guys doing a nesting, in-house separation, or were you physically separated?
Before I met you, we were living together for probably about 3 months, and then we separated in February, and I believe I joined the program in March.
So when you and I met before you joined the program, you guys had been physically separated, living in two different addresses for a little over a month, correct?
Correct.
How did she initiate the separation process? Did you move out on your own, or did she come to you and say, what was the experience like that prompted the separation for you guys?
She just basically looked at me and said, "Where are you going?"
And what does that mean? Help me understand.
Basically, it's time for you to leave. You need to figure out.
Oh, it was an implied way of saying get out, right? Okay.
Correct. Correct.
That is that sounds like a very aggressive personality, and those wives always make the best wives, typically, if you can get that marriage restored and back on track. So you believe that the train was literally heading for divorce land. So did she bring up the divorce word, or was it just like I want a separation? What was your experience during that moment, if you remember? I know you're kind of going back.
Right. Um, During that moment, it was just separation. The divorce never really came up till probably 6 months into the separation.
Before you guys got physically separated, were you doing an in-house separation, or did you think everything was kosher up until you had to move out?
Honestly, I thought everything was kosher up until I had to move out.
I was the same way. That's very normal. Go ahead.
Even though once we separated and I started looking back, I could see the signs of where she was trying to tell me that I needed to step up, but I never saw it because of my
Yeah.
pride.
She was trying to get you to see her, feel her, and value her, right?
Correct. Correct.
And you were blinded because you had scales over your eyes.
Correct.
Did you try any other programs, or what else? What all did you try in order to save the marriage when she said, I want out?
I tried doing a church seminar called Maximum Men, and then I did some videos from another program,
What program was that? Do you remember?
Josh Hudson.
And so, what was it about the other resources that you had pursued, whether it was with Josh Hudson or the Maximum Christian program, whatever that was? What was it about those things that was working for you, if there was anything that was working? And what was it about those things that you tried that wasn't working?
Honestly, nothing that they offered really worked.
Did they help you in other areas of your life, but maybe not so much the marriage? Share your experience of that part of it.
They did help me open my eyes to things that were going on and things that I needed to do.
Mm-hmm. Things that you
As
needed to
far
do to better yourself, or things that you needed to do to restore your marriage?
better myself.
Okay. And that's a very normal experience. You've probably heard me say this inside the program that nearly 50% of our students come from other programs. And the feedback that I get on the strategy session calls that we do when somebody applies to the program is, well, I have a lot of good stuff to say about the program. I can't say anything bad about it. But when I say, well, what was your experience of that? And it was like, well, it got me out of depression. It helped me kind of like, you know, get my muscles bigger, trim down my waistline, get off the couch. But as far as restoring the marriage, it made it worse because she resents that I'm becoming a better version of myself. And you remember, and just going back thinking about the program as you pace through the steps, the very first step in the DivorceStoppers program, it does have something to do with you. But our first step in the program is not about your waistline. It's not about your biceps. It's not about necessarily getting off the couch. I just did a client success story with AJ. I don't know if you saw that or not, but in that client success story, AJ talked about he's a doctor. And so he went to college and then he went and did an internship. And he said, my experience of this was when I was in the university, we're learning about all these different things about life and education. He said, but you immediately put me in the internship and we started actually working with the patient, or in other words, working to restore the marriage immediately. That's why we have that 7-day turnaround goal. So you're kind of paraphrasing that in the exact same way that AJ did, but you're just sharing that in a different way. The other programs had me in university, they had me in college, and they were helping me better myself. But concerning like practicing the restoration of my marriage, that didn't come in those programs. So share your experience when you and I met, when you joined the program. I'm very curious when a new student joins the program. I don't know that I've ever actually asked this question on one of these client success shares. Share your experience in your mind. I have never asked this. Your first few days in the program, and then after you've been in the program for 7 days, what were you thinking? Were you like, this is crazy, this is working? Because immediately you get to meet the other students. But not only that, you get to see what's happening with them. Share what you were thinking as you entered that environment. I've never asked that question before, but I've always kind of been curious. What's in your mind coming into this as a new student in that first few days and then the first week?
Within the first few days, I was kind of thinking I could see a little bit of curiosity because of when I started the emojis, her asking questions about that.
So you're talking about your first week in the program where I'm teaching you to be proactive, and instead of doing no contact, we immediately start by contacting her, but it's a different form of contact. So what you're talking about with the emojis, just to clarify for anybody watching this video, is you start implementing, what did AJ call it? You immediately started your internship, and we did the opposite of no contact. We immediately started reaching out to her, but I was teaching you how to think on her level emotionally so that you were communicating in a way that made her feel heard, valued, and seen. So you're sharing your feedback of the first couple of days with that. What was that experience those first few days? So when you say you saw curiosity, you were curious, or you saw her curiosity peak about you in you?
It was with her because she was like, "This isn't you. Why are you sending me emojis all of a sudden?"
She said, "Why are you sending me emojis?"
Yes.
And then, so fast forward a few more days. So now you're in the program for 1 week. What was your experience after 1 week in the program?
It was more of a kind of leveled off because I believe I got a call. I got to go on a call with you to figure out what to do next because it had leveled off and it was time for a pattern interrupt.
And I don't know if you remember this or not, but I was looking at your profile before our call, and that was that 15 days in the program, we needed a pattern interrupt. Guys, I want to give you some free coaching in the comment section of this YouTube channel. You just heard Josh say that his marriage was headed to divorce, but he put the brakes on the train and he stopped it. He stopped it in his track. Put in the comments right now if your marriage is heading to divorce land and you 100% know it's because you don't know how to communicate in a way that will actually build intimacy, that will put the brakes on the train. Are you struggling with communication? If I get over 50 comments on this, I will do a video about what can you do in your communication that could really put the brakes on the train. Is your train heading for divorce and you have assets together, you have children together, and the court's about to order child support? That's going to be a very large number that's going to enable her. Do you have homes together, business together? I attract a lot of entrepreneurs like myself that are self-employed, that are high income individuals, you're middle class and upper class. And when you have asset division, whenever you're facing a divorce, every dollar that goes to your wife can be an enemy of the marriage because it enables her to stay out of the marriage. Now, Denver, well, wouldn't it be fair if she, gets as much as she's entitled to? Yes, if the goal was divorce, but the goal is to restore the marriage. So we want the divorce to be a nightmare for her, but we want you to level up and be the husband that you're supposed to be and lead her back to something that's truly in the best interest of her. It's in the best interest of your children. It's in the best interest of the legacy for your family. But where are you stuck? Put in the comments right now if you've blown up on some conversations, that you're aligning your mouth, you're aligning your communication with your feelings, and it's achieving the opposite of your goals. Put in the comments right now if you need some help aligning your communication with your goals to put the brakes on the train. Stick that in the comments right now. I'll respond to every single comment. And if I get over 50 comments on this, I will actually do a new video. How do you change in your communication to put the brakes on the train, and then stick into reverse? At the end of this video, my video editor is going to put a link to a free marriage U-turn masterclass that you can actually register for today while there's limited seats available this week. If you go to register whenever he pitches that website, he's going to put that up at the end of the video. I want you to make sure and register for the free marriage U-turn masterclass, because that can give you some benefits to actually turn the train around in your communication immediately. So make sure at the end of the video, you get that website or that QR code that he's going to put up, register for that free marriage U-turn masterclass, and start turning the train around today. You're about to hear how Joshua took it to the next level in communication, stuck that train in reverse, and went back to full restoration. And he and his wife are living together. She actually is going to be at the end of this video sharing her experience about what the process was like for her. And that was that 15 days in the program, we needed a pattern interrupt. And that the goal here was to put the brakes on the train that was heading to divorce land. It was heading to New York City. And if it reached New York City, it would have been game over. The marriage would have been dead. And just for the sake of this video, I used to say Mexico City, but the YouTube algorithm was serving me up there. And so that's not really my clients that convert, because Lo siento mi español, no es muy bueno. So now I'm saying New York City. Okay. But your train was heading to New York City. And if it would have reached that destination, you would have got a divorce. She was driving the train and you were a passenger on the train and you didn't want to go to New York City, but that's where it was going. At what point did you see that you officially changed the leadership? Because when I met you, you were following her lead. You were a passenger on the train she was driving. You desperately wanted to love your family and take control of the steering wheel, put the brakes on and stick it in reverse, but you didn't know how. And you were choosing to be resourceful. You were reaching out. You found a couple of other programs, but they were giving you results in your life, but they weren't giving you results in your marriage. In the first week in the Divorce Stoppers program, did you see that you at least successfully put the brakes on the train, slow it down, and then engage the reverse to head back to restoration? Did you see that in the first week? It's always the goal. Not all students see it in the first week, but it's always the goal is the first 7 days. Did you see that happen in the first 7 days for you? And if not, when did you see it and what changed so that we got you so you could see it? That's why we do coaching calls, because most students do see it, but some students don't, which is why we do the coaching calls.
Right. Within the first week, I saw it slow down.
So I'm curious if there's any other students out there, or if there's anybody else out there that's facing an unwanted divorce or separation, and you're in another program, you're in a Christian program, you're in a church program, you're in somebody else's program, and maybe that person has never been in your shoes. Like maybe they're helping you level up in your life, maybe they're helping you get out of depression, but it's not helping you in your marriage. And so step back and ask yourself, and put this in the comments, if you're currently going through another program right now, and the person that's teaching that program has literally never been in your shoes. They don't have a wedding ring on and they've never faced an unwanted divorce. And they're helping you feel better about yourself, but they're not actually helping you restore the marriage. If you don't do something that changing, if for anybody that is exactly in those shoes now that Joshua was in when I met him, put that in the comments. We'd like to know, what is the program? What are you going through? What is your experience? Put that in the comments. The goal here is to help men restore their marriage, not to make them feel better about themselves. Put that in the comments. Now, Josh, as you started the process of restoring your marriage, so in the first week, you didn't see that you put it in reverse, but you did see that you put the brakes on. So here's my question. That was progress. It's not the progress we set a goal for. The goal is to put the train in reverse in the first week, but if you put the brakes on, you made some progress. So here's my question to you. When you saw that progress was being made, did that make you feel better about yourself?
It did. It did.
So that's my goal for new students in our program. I want you to feel better about yourself because we use that to restore the marriage. But I don't want you to feel better about yourself by going making these internal changes that's not leading your wife to also change at the same time. No marriage will ever have the brakes put on, and no marriage will be put in reverse that's going to divorce back to restoration unless we do two things: put the brakes on and stick it in reverse. Neither of those will happen unless she starts changing at the same time you're changing. So you've acknowledged that you started changing in your communication. You started practicing, implementing. What's the word? I got to write this down. What did AJ call it? Ty, what did AJ call it? So we immediately put you in an internship so you could start practicing the communication style. Now, Josh, let me ask you this. Inside the program, was your experience that I'm telling you what to say, or is the teaching? So the first two steps inside the Divorce Stoppers program, if you remember, is I'm teaching you the psychology. So step 1.1 is I'm teaching you the psychology of how she's thinking and the power of words. And I'm teaching you the university. I'm giving you the college steps. So here's the textbook on the psychology of the mind, the psychology of confirmation bias, the psychology of what it takes, wording. The Bible says out of the overflow of the heart, the mouth speaks. Step 1.1 is I'm teaching you how to change your heart so that what comes out of your mouth makes your wife feel heard, seen, and valued so that we can put the brakes and then turn it around. And step 1.2 is I'm actually giving you examples of how you do that so you have a comprehensive understanding. Okay, So that's what puts the brakes on, and then that's what puts it in reverse. Sometimes we have hidden in the program, as you well know, step 1.3 and 1.4. And I hide that on purpose in the program. So if I have a student that doesn't stick it in reverse in that first week, then we say, okay, here's a coaching call. Do you understand? And now to expound on this, here's a whole new level to help you get it. It's step 1.3 and 1.4, and it's hidden. At what point do you believe, not that the marriage was restored, but do you believe that you actually stuck it in reverse? And from what you're acknowledging, your wife was a little bit prideful. I remember from that call, which is very, very normal, especially a strong willed woman. I like to say that the world is full of beautiful, good women, and there's very few bad women out there. And for 99 out of 100 of my students, they're married to a very good woman that might just happen to be doing some very bad things. Put that in the comments. I think it's really what the Bible means when it says a foolish woman will tear her very own house down with her very own hands, because the man levels up and becomes the best husband ever, but she's not going to see it simply because pride goeth before the fall. But it does not say a bad woman. It does not say a bad person. It might say that a woman that you, as the man that's failed in your leadership in your marriage, has led her to act foolish because you were. So share your experience of how that scripture applied to your life. Number one, if this is a Christian program, Denver's a Christian. I don't hide that, but I don't care what your faith is. I'm aligning my actions with my goals to change the world and to fight evil and save marriages all over this earth. And I don't care what your faith is. But no, it's not a Christian program. But I don't hide the fact that I'm a Christian. And nothing that we teach in the program has not been proven by science to also work regardless of your faith. Am I implementing biblical principles? 100% I am. But it's backed up by data that works that we can repeat. So share your experience, though, of that scripture. And I bring that up because I know you're a Christian also. How was that scripture working in your life in a way that you now see it? That's the first question. And then the second question is this: what point in the program did you officially put it in reverse? I know in 7 days you put the brakes on. You got stuck and didn't see you were putting it in reverse and leaving divorce land. So share your experience of those two things.
What was the first question again? I'm sorry.
The first question is this. So the Bible says that a foolish woman tears her house down with her very own hands. Your failure, you acknowledge your failure in your marriage contributed to your wife doing some things that were not in her best interest for her life. And so what were some of those things if you now see them? And what were your failures that led her to do those things? Where did you fail in your marriage that caused your wife to start leading everyone into a divorce?
My failures were,
And if we're going to be honest about it, the man always contributed and maybe even was the leader that led you guys into divorce, but she was the stronger emotional partner that decided to make the decision.
my failures was I got complacent. I got to where, honestly, now that I sit here and look at it and I've been through it, I started acting like my dad. And that is one thing I did not want to do. My
And so
dad,
if you were to describe how you were acting like your dad, go ahead and elaborate on that.
what he does, he gets off of work, he comes home, he fixes him a plate to eat, he sits down on the couch, he watches TV, he falls asleep on the couch, he gets up, goes to bed, gets up again, goes to work, and it's just a complete cycle unless it's on
Yep.
a church night. If it's a church night, he'll get ready for church, go to church, but then he comes home, sits on the couch, falls asleep, gets up, goes to bed, and it's just that cycle. He does nothing around the house to better the partnership between him and my mom. And my mom, God bless her, she just puts up with it and deals with it.
Well, from what you're describing, that was the success story in the olden days of how you can actually have a happy marriage. A lot of women, uh, that if you go back to, as of the recording of this video, we're in 2025. If you go back 30 years ago, you have a lot of women that lived as wives in that dynamic, and they were happy with that because they were taught that if your man takes care of the bills, if he's a hardworking guy and he doesn't abuse you, then you should be thankful and you have a happy marriage. And a lot of women are actually happy in those relationships. But what the world has actually changed, and women don't need a husband anymore to have a good life. They don't need a husband necessarily for financial security. They can go have their own job. And if you look at the data, particularly in the United States, I'm not in the United States, but the majority of my students are, 70% of the students are. But I'm from the United States. I'm from Arkansas. I live in Puerto Rico now. But if you go back and you look at the data, statistically, the trends have changed where in a lot of your positions in the United States, women are paid more than men. So there's been a paradigm shift in the security. Women are designed to need security, but they're positioned now through the workforce and the way that the economy has changed that they don't need a man to have financial security anymore. And some women actually have more financial security if they file for a divorce because the courts would order you to contribute more financially to her than what you were contributing in the marriage. So you hit that nail spot on. So many men, I can tell you that I did the exact same thing. I got complacent and I thought that if I worked my ass off 20 hours a day and provided a life for my wife financially, that when I come home, I should have dinner on the table and she should be happy to do it. And she should be hot, ready, and willing when I was ready to go to bed. And for some reason, like, I don't know, like, why don't you have a satin nightgown on? You already smell like roses. You've soaked in the bathtub in essential oils and flowers for 2 hours to prepare for your hardworking husband. And I'm like, my wife could go, when I met my wife, she was making six figures as a hairdresser. She did not need me as a husband. And so I think that your situation there is 100% normal. But guess what else is normal? Divorce. Divorce is normal. So you started waking up to, wow, a wife in today's world, what worked for my dad, where maybe your mom is putting up with that, because I guarantee you, your mom is probably thinking, well, this is normal. He doesn't abuse me and he's a hardworking man. And so I should just put up with this. And maybe she doesn't know how to talk to him. This is what the Bible means when it says the sins of the parents are passed on to the children. It doesn't mean that I am going to be judged by my creator if my dad cheated on my mom. That's not what it means. What it means is what I see them do, I'm also going to do. And what that also means is what your children see you do, they will do. And I would go so far as to say is what you're doing now, no matter what happens with the trends in employment and everything else that goes on, you are teaching your children what masculine leadership looks like and what the differences are in a masculine role and a feminine role, and how you make a wife feel safe in the feminine by leveling up in the correct type of masculine, not the Andrew Tate type of masculine, where a lot of people watch Andrew Tate. And the reason I bring that up is I've had a lot of comments on my YouTube channel for some people that just jumped on and they watched 5 seconds of some of my videos and they're like, oh, this guy's like Andrew Tate. And I'm like, no, I'm not like Andrew Tate. I tell people to like get off their ass and go do something. And from that perspective, it's like a powerhouse, go pursue the life and the marriage that you want. But I'm fully committed into a monogamous relationship. When you make a covenant with your creator and your wife, I believe that should be a monogamous relationship between the man, his wife, and his creator. And the reason I bring that up is because a monogamous relationship has a lot higher statistically abilities to succeed. These open marriages where people do that, they go have fun. I have 6% of my students, they come in because they've tried open marriages and they tried swinging and it always goes bad. So now that you're in the separation, when did you start looking back and seeing that about yourself? That you had become your dad. And once you saw that, you were a student of the DivorceStoppers program when you started seeing that, correct?
Yes.
So what was it about the program that brought the ability for you to not just see yourself that you had become your dad, but to also see yourself in your wife's eyes to see how that was affecting her and the marriage?
That one's kind of a hard one to answer, honestly.
Well, it probably was simply because you had time to process things in your separation.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So let me ask you this. Let's talk about the changes. So as you're making the changes in the DivorceStoppers program, what was your experience with your wife? So at what point did you turn the train around? We know in your first 7 days you put the brakes on. When did you see the paradigm shift where you officially put it in reverse and started going back to restoration? So you said that happened after you did a pattern interrupt call, and that was right at the 2-week mark in the program.
Right.
For anybody who doesn't know what a pattern interrupt, those are usually psychological hacks. When your wife is prideful and she's stuck, and she sees that you're making progress and it scares her and she doesn't like it, she'll get a little bit prideful. And so we don't get stuck inside the program, and we keep moving toward restoration. We keep being an intern, practicing on the patients, making progress and helping the marriage. We always will do a pattern interrupt. And sometimes if that one doesn't work, we do another pattern interrupt. So share your experience when you did a pattern interrupt and how that worked or didn't work.
It worked for a minute.
Well, that's okay. A pattern interrupt is designed to work for a minute. So if it worked, it worked. I'm not saying she's not going to pivot again. That's why we'll do a second pattern interrupt. So when you tried the pattern interrupt after we did a coaching call, share what your experience of that. What was it that worked about that? Did that get the train moving again when you did the pattern interrupt, even for a moment?
Not 100%. It didn't.
Okay.
It didn't get the train going in the way that I wanted it to.
Yeah. So I know you didn't stay there. So what was the next step that you took that started to get the train going? We know that now that you guys are back together, there was some progress to get it going again. Share what that was like.
Honestly, it wasn't until the very end of the program is when the turnaround actually happened.
So how did that look? So as you go into the last steps in the program for anybody that's watching this is a 7-week transformation. So as you pace into the end of the program and you're doing the final steps, and sometimes we repeat those steps. If we have a loss, we might go back a step or two. We got 14 steps, and not all students do all 14 steps. Some just do 13 steps. But as you're going through the different steps, sometimes we'll go out of order. Sometimes we'll skip from step 2 to step 12, and sometimes we'll go from step 12 back to 3. But as you're going through these steps, when you started seeing that the train was officially turning around and you had shifted that lever into reverse and you're going back to restoration, share your experience of not only the changes that you had made yourself, where you had paradigm shifts up here, share what changed up here for you. Share what changed here and here for you, and how those changes in you changed your wife.
For me, it was step 6, which was stop working on the marriage or stop working on the relationship. And then I believe it was step 11, which was, pursue your calling, do what you want, making yourself happy. Those were the 2 biggest steps as far as my experience that really helped me to build upon my happiness.
And how did that work to lead her to start following you on the train that you were driving back to marriage restoration? Your train had officially left New York City. It was leaving divorce land, and it was moving back to marriage restoration. So when you've seen that shift, when you know that you put the train in reverse, share how your changes caused her to change, where she was now on your train heading back to restoration, where she was changing. What changes did you see in her once you had put the train in reverse?
I started seeing things that, she wasn't quite as happy as she was trying to make herself out to be.
Yeah.
Little did I know, for the past 3 months before we got back together, she just never felt right. And she told me this a couple of days after we got back together. She was like, for the past 3 months, I just haven't felt right. And within the past 2 weeks, she said, my mask has been cracking, is the way she put it.
I love that you're bringing this up. And the reason that I love that you're bringing this up is 2 days ago, I literally recorded a video. And the title of that video is When She Starts to Feel Lost. Because so many women, so many wives, when they say, I don't want the relationship anymore, get out of my house. At that moment, they don't feel lost. And it takes them, 2 things happen that will cause a woman to feel lost. An extensive amount of time, like up to 2 years. Or a man leading her back into restoration and ruining the story, dissolving the confirmation bias that she has against you in the relationship, because every thought that she's ever had to confirm the bias, why she can't be married to you, why you're not a good husband, why the grass was never greener on that side with you, that it's greener on the other side, single or with somebody else. As you work to make all of that not true, we can drastically speed up the process to making her miss you, to making her miss the marriage, to making her realize that it's not peaches and rainbows. So she starts actually feeling the loss. That changes her. So that's acknowledging that. So, how many of you are watching this video? Put this in the comments. If right now your wife is acting like she wants a divorce and she's happy about it, she is prideful, she is not changing her mind. There's no reason for you to have hope that you could restore this marriage. She is telling you that it's over. It doesn't even matter if you guys made love and you just went on vacation. She is still saying now, I don't want you to get any bright ideas that we're staying together. So if that's you, put that in the comments, and my video editor is going to put up a video at the end of this about how to handle when she doesn't feel the loss, when she feels lost and what you're going through. And then we'll also link another video, and you can choose what you want at the end of this video, is how she can act happy when she's going through a divorce and you're having thoughts of suicide. And you're like, did she ever love me? Of course she did. So now your wife is actually in her new feminine state, feeling emotionally vulnerable and safe enough with you to come tell you, as the marriage is being restored, of, I really haven't been happy for the last 3 months. And so what do you think it was about your leadership? What changed in you that caused her to change so that she felt vulnerable enough to be in the feminine and share that with you? What changes did you make, and how did the program help you with that?
My happiness, honestly, is what I believe. She may say something different, but in my opinion, it was, me being happy doing what I was doing.
Yeah, and that was in the last steps of the program. So, do you think before you got your happiness back in the program, do you think it might have had something to do with your new communication style? Because you maintained the communication techniques that I was teaching you. Let me ask you this. Prior to you getting your happy back, do you think the new way that we're teaching you to think, the new way that we're teaching you to see her, to hear her, to feel her, which all of that mixed together in a bowl is making her feel seen, heard, and valued? Do you think that by making her feel seen, heard, and valued, that contributed to your happiness? Did it open up your eyes to not just see your wife, but maybe to see coworkers, maybe to see people you go to church with, your friends and your family, your kids? Did it cause you to see the world, people, through different eyes?
Absolutely.
Explain that for me. I saw a major transformation there with you pretty quickly in that area. Explain what that experience was like for you.
Just being able to hear what she's saying and understand where she's coming from when she says it, and being able to know that when she asks me to do something, I can always say, hey, why am I doing this? Or because, like you say in your program, it never hurts to ask why.
100%.
And that's one thing I never
And
did. I never did ask why or can you explain that? But now I feel 100% comfortable asking why, or hey, can you explain your reasoning for that? Because I may have for something better.
so what you're telling me is that your new communication style goes next level in making sure that you actually see her. You see her point of view. You hear her. She feels valued because you're conveying, I care about what you're thinking, what your thoughts are, what you're feeling in this moment. And if I don't understand it, I'm taking the initiative of masculine leadership to dig deeper, to connect with you, to figure out, who are you? Who is this woman that's in front of me? That's my wife. I would call that pursuing your wife. Do you think that your new communication, the new leadership, is making her feel valued now that your marriage is restored? Does that new communication style that you've learned make her feel seen? Does it make her feel heard? Does it make her feel valued? That's the first question. The second question is, how does it feel to you to actually see, hear, and value her on another level? So that's two questions.
I think it makes her feel wonderful because she can actually see that I'm trying to understand where she's coming from and what she's trying to say or what she's trying to convey to me, whether it's through words or actions.
I love that. And the second question, the follow up to that is how, so what you're describing is your new communication is not something that you're using phrases that I've given you. Think differently. So share your experience of what it feels like to you to experience intimacy with your wife. So we know that she feels seen, heard, and valued. What does it make you feel like emotionally or maybe even spiritually to cause her to feel heard, valued, and seen, but also to actually hear and see her? Share your experience of that, what that's like for you, your feelings around that.
It makes me feel more of a leader because I can hear her, I can understand her for the
Okay.
most. So I'm able to lead based off of her feedback as to where we need to go next and what's next in our relationship. It also makes me
Gotcha.
feel absolutely wonderful that I am able to hear her and see her and make her feel valued because previously I never did.
And it sounds like what you're describing is it makes you feel good because you know you're making her feel loved.
Correct.
And another way to word that is, as you know from my text message training, is it truly makes her feel appreciated, and you appreciate that your wife feels like your queen, and it makes you know that you're seeing evidence that she feels vulnerable enough to actually follow your leadership, which makes her feel safe to be in the feminine.
Absolutely.
So many men that come into this program struggle with identifying even in the masculine. And today's world is teaching us that masculinity is a bad thing and that men should not be masculine. I mean, literally a few months ago on the shelves of a major department store that starts with a T and it's a big red circle and it ends and it sounds like Farget. They actually carried a clothing line. Now, this is the agenda of the world. This is why I started doing these stories again, because the algorithms want to suppress anything that supports masculine leadership. Like there's an evil agenda in the world to suppress masculinity and even men that are still masculine men, it's affected us and it's affected our wives because it's teaching women to pivot into the masculine. And it's 100% an agenda to feminize men, to say you're not worthy of leading. And then maybe you looked at porn and you feel guilty about that, so you don't feel like you deserve a wife, so you want to pivot into the feminine. You don't want to lead your wife anymore because you feel guilty, you feel condemned, you don't feel worthy, and maybe you're not worthy. But I like to say that if the good Lord forgives you, don't let the world or anybody else hold your feet to the grindstone of condemnation. Get up off your ass and continue. But so many men struggle with masculine identity. A lot of men struggle with the ability to actually say, I am a masculine man. It makes the majority of men today actually feel uncomfortable to say those words, to walk in that identity. And that's what the agenda is to confuse anything around masculinity when a man's not stable. This is what I mean when you hear me say, if you want your wife to follow you, you have got to be that 20-pound bottle of Valium that no matter what buttons she press, no matter how she's feeling, you allow her to be safe in the feminine. Meaning if she's having a bitch fit, if she's having a crazy moment, or even if she's just needing a shoulder to cry on, if you walk in the masculine and you see her, you treat your queen like she's an actual queen, then you will feel confident to walk in the masculine as her king. Whenever your wife feels seen, heard, and valued because of your communication. Why do you keep touching your short shirt? You got something on it? No, I'm talking about your heart. When we change the heart of communication and we realize that there's more to marriage than going to bring home the bacon, that the person that you're living with as your wife deserves to have intimacy with you. That's why the Bible actually says that your wife is the weaker vessel. You should treat her accordingly. That means that you should not just put on one scripture, you're to put on the whole armor of Christ, the entire Bible in context. You have to have a transformation by the renewing of your mind. You have to position your masculine leadership to know that she is more vulnerable because she processes her thoughts in her emotions, and she's the weaker vessel because of that. It doesn't mean that she's less than. You have equal roles in marriage, but they are very different roles. A woman wants to be in the feminine in her marriage. I get students, I have 3 students right now, one in particular, where his wife is a powerhouse. She's a CEO, runs a worldwide business, and at work, she is the boss. Like, she has a multi-million-dollar company, Forbes, the Forbes top whatever, top 100 companies, and she runs that company. In her job, it's normal for her to operate in the masculine. And this student's actively restoring his marriage because he is providing masculine leadership in the marriage that he lost because his wife is a powerhouse at work and she was bringing that home. And he was struggling with, how do I stay in the masculine because she's coming home in the masculine? How do I make her feel emotionally safe so that she feels comfortable at home when she walks through the front door to pivot into the feminine? And a man can always lead the woman into the feminine just like you have, because that's where she wants to be in the marriage. But if we're not careful, if my masculine wife that's a CEO of the company, she comes home masculine, if I am threatened by that because I'm not walking in my own identity as a good masculine man, I don't know how to make my wife feel safe to be in the feminine. And I'll respond in a bitch fit, arguing, using the D word, or trying to get her to fix herself or get her to change, which is me being feminine, which will cause her to be more masculine in the marriage. Put that in the comments. And that causes a woman to be extremely full of pride because she does not feel safe with you. Every time she pivots into the masculine, if you blow up and it phases you, that confirms to her the bias against you and the marriage, that this man is not a 20-pound bottle of Valium. I can press one button on his piano and it plays loud. But women are designed to crave masculine leadership from a partner in a marriage. That's one of the reasons they get married. And when you become that 20-pound bottle of Valium, like you did, it makes her feel safe and it causes her to change. It puts the train in reverse. She will open up to you. That may take a minute. That's the reason marriages aren't restored overnight, but you can sure restore them fast compared to a lot of success stories that you hear out there where 5 years later they got remarried. You absolutely can speed that process up. Any feedback on any of that, Joshua?
No, I have no. You
I saw you post a couple of different times in Iron Sharpens Iron about the 20-pound bottle of Valium that can't be phased. That landed with you like it does more than most students. Why did you reference that as several times, 2 or 3 times as you're going through the process? I saw you actually post that or make those comments to other students when you were participating in Iron Sharpens Iron. What was your experience of what does it mean to be the 20-pound bottle of Valium that can't be phased? What does that mean for you? What does that mean for your wife?
For me, it was whatever she threw at me during the separation. Just don't let it bother me. Let her see that it bothers me.
Let me ask you a question. Do you believe that the program teaches men to build intimacy with their lover, with their soulmate, with their wife? Do you believe that the program teaches men to build intimacy when the woman comes to you throwing up anger and rage and anything negative? Can we use her being angry to build intimacy? If so, how?
Yes, we look at them and I understand where you're coming from. I agree.
I
Or
agree with your negative feelings because they're real.
listen to what she has to say, and then
So explain, listen to what she's saying, and then explain to her, I understand your negative feelings. And then you do what? You put a good name on the negative feelings by what? By explaining why you agree with her negative feelings.
exactly.
What would the old Joshua have done before the program? If she expressed her negative feelings, back then you weren't agreeing with the negative negative feelings, explaining why you agree with the negative feelings, and then putting a good name on them. You weren't doing that. I know you weren't because you were heading to divorce land. I've never met anybody 11 years that has. So where were you when she expressed negative feelings before you started the Divorce Stoppers program?
I would duck my head down and sulk and walk away and throw my little bitch fit.
Yeah, that's what my wife says. You acting like a little bitch. That's what my wife would say when I would do that before I understood all this myself. And that's a very normal thing to do. And when a man throws a little bitch fit, would you say that's in the masculine or is that in the feminine?
That's absolutely feminine.
And when a man pivots into the feminine, it causes the woman to become more what?
More masculine.
Right. And that means that you're emotionally unsafe.
Correct.
Okay. So, in general, share your experience of this program.
My experience in this program has been absolutely wonderful. It's been full of highs and lows because you have to become the low part is becoming the rock in the desert because you don't know really what's going to happen, but you have to persevere and you have
That's
to.
actually part of the program. For anybody listening, the rock in the desert is one of the steps in the program. Go ahead, Josh.
You have to, like you said, agree with her negative feelings and put a good name on it. And when you're in that part, it's really hard. But if you can ever get past that part, things really start looking up.
So let me ask you this: as you were going through this, before, during, or after, did your wife know that you were doing this program?
She knew I was doing something. I told her that it was pretty much what it is. It's a marriage counseling, not marriage counseling, a marriage coaching program.
I thought you told her that it was a men's leadership program.
I think I did at the beginning, and then I've started telling her it's a
marriage coaching.
It's a coach.
So,
It's a coaching.
You probably started telling her it was marriage coach. I know you asked me in the beginning, like I think she knows what's going on about it. That I'm going through a program because she found out through the finances or something like that. I don't know, but I remember you asking me, "What do I say?" And I said, "Tell her what it is. It's a men's leadership program, and you don't have to be specific that it's the goal is to restore the marriage." But probably you told her that it was marriage coaching also after you saw the train go in reverse, most likely, right?
Correct.
When she actually got on board and was a passenger on the train back to Restoration Land as you were leaving New York City, correct?
Correct.
So let me ask you a question. Now that she knows that you went through a marriage coaching program and that you're actively still a participant in there because you're showing up, I see you in there frequently now that you guys are back together and you don't have to be in there. But why are you still showing up? So now that you guys are back together and your marriage is officially restored and you're on the same page that you both want the marriage, why are you still showing up in the iron sharpens iron, supporting the other students? What makes you do that? You don't have to do that. I'm not paying you to do that.
I show up to show the other men that it can be done, that you can take marriage that is absolutely heading towards a divorce and restore it.
What would you say anybody that's watching this video, they truly believe that their situation is hopeless? Now, the reason I'm asking this question this way is because you've been through the program, you still have access to it because it's lifetime access, okay? And you're in the community where you can actively see at least about 250, maybe close to 300 men, past, present, and future as they're coming on. So what I mean by that is you've seen scenarios. Would you agree that you've seen scenarios with students that might even be in a worse off situation than you are? Maybe you've seen students that their wife is living with another man and having an affair and all this kind of stuff, and you've seen those students when they started the program and you've seen their transition as they go through the program, and you've seen a lot of those students whose wife actually was living with another guy. Like it just absolutely seemed hopeless. You've seen Jason, you know who I'm talking about because he started around the same time as you. They full-fledged got a divorce, and you just saw him post in the group that he and his wife just got remarried. So you've seen hopeless situations that actually ended in divorce and then they got remarried. What would you tell a man that's watching this that's not a student of the Divorce Stoppers program? Maybe they're in other programs, they're doing no contact, maybe they're going to counseling, and you see the results of that within the program, and maybe you see that they are feeling suicidal because they truly believe that the marriage is over. It's not going to be restored and they feel hopeless. But this just served up in the algorithm. They happen to be watching the video and they're having thoughts of checking out because it seems like everything that they've worked for their whole life. And even though they might have got complacent in their marriage, it's a really good man. And sometimes it's a man that maybe is a really bad man, but he wants to change and he has changed, but it's still not restoring his marriage. And he just wants to give up on life because he loves his wife and his family so much. And he doesn't know what to do to change it. And he sees that it's not just going to ruin his life, but it's going to ruin her life. And it's going to drastically harm the kids' emotional state and sometimes even their spiritual state. What would you tell the man that's facing that? And he absolutely believes there's no way to save it, but he's just watching YouTube videos and he's going to church and maybe he sees the wall up, but he doesn't see any progress in it coming down. And he's just sitting there. Let's something that's so heartbreaking for me to see. There's some Facebook groups and they're called Standing for Your Marriage. And it is so heartbreaking to me as a Christian in particular that almost every single one of their marriages are ending because I have a medically, you know this, I have a medically documented instantaneous miracle. I would be in a casket today in New York City. I would be in a casket. I 100% would be in a casket. I went through stage 4 throat cancer and I lost everything. I lost everything. I lost my health. I lost my family and I lost my wealth. All of that was stolen from me. I absolutely was hopeless. And what would you tell a man today that 100% he's standing for his marriage? He's praying, he believes. The Bible says, if you ask anything in my name, it'll be given to you. And he believes that scripture with all his heart. But if we put on the whole armor of God and not just be addicted to one scripture, because one scripture out of context, quite frankly, can ruin your life because we're told to not do that. We're told to put on the whole armor of God. Faith without works is dead. And you know that if there's a wall up, if you don't exercise your faith and you're just trusting God to bring it down, I know for me personally, even though I literally had a visit from 3 angels in my bedroom in Puerto Rico, and one of those angels spoke to me on my deathbed. I mean, I was literally, I believe with all my heart, I was hours away from death, if not minutes. I was on my deathbed. So you guys see how thin I am? Anybody watching this video? I'm a slender guy. I was exactly 96 pounds lighter than I am now. So imagine me if I lost 96 pounds. I hadn't eaten in 5 weeks. I lost my voice. I was dying that night. I had a visit from 3 angels, and one of the angels spoke to me. There was 3 angels, 2 were in the back, and there was one that stood in the front of them. And one angel looked me square in the eye and told me, "It is not your time to die." And only then on my deathbed did I actually ask God to help me. And you know, whenever I asked God to help me, he responded to me and gave me instructions. He gave me 2 instructions. He said, go pray for somebody else and give thanks to everything that you're thankful for. And I wasn't able to talk. I lost my voice. I didn't have a voice. And I was using an app on my phone to text. And by that point, my wife had woke up and I texted her, I'm dying. And God told me to pray for somebody else and to give thanks for everything that I'm thankful for. That night is not the night I got my miracle. The next morning when I woke up, that was the first time I had slept through the night. That was the first time in over a month I had slept more than 30 minutes at once. And I had slept several hours. I woke up the next morning. I hadn't been out of bed in a month, Joshua. I had the strength to walk upstairs. Now, my stepson and my wife helped me, but my kitchen and my living room were on the 2nd floor of my house in Puerto Rico. I had the strength to walk that day. And by the way, I hadn't even been getting out of bed to pee. My wife would have been bringing a urinal to me. But that day I had enough strength to get out of the bed and walk upstairs and sit down. My wife put on the TV. She put on CBN. That stands for Christian Broadcast Network. And that's back when Pat Robertson was alive. Him and Terry Meason were the co-hosts on that show, but they deliver Christian news. You know, they deliver the news around the world. But about once a month or something, I don't know if they still do this, but they used to like pray for people. And Terry Meason on that show, she said, there's somebody out there that right now, I wasn't dying from the cancer. I was dying from the side effects of the treatment. It had cracked my sinus cavity, and I had a chronic infection where I was leaking cerebral spinal fluid from my sinus cavity into my throat. And it was just, I would fill a massive bucket full of green, stinky, infected slime. and I couldn't eat because of it. I lost my voice because of it, and I was dying because of this. And the doctors tried everything to save it, to fix it. She said, there's somebody out there right now that has matter of fact, I'm going to have my video editor add the clip of when I received my miracle. I'm going to have him add that clip from CBN's broadcast network.
If someone else, you have a chronic, and I mean chronic issue with your sinuses, constant draining, and it affects your voice, your swallowing, even your stomach is upset from it. God is healing that condition for you. It's just going to dry up. You're not going to have the problem anymore. Thank you, Lord.
She said, there's somebody out there right now that has a sinus infection, and it's so bad, it's affecting your speech, it's affecting your stomach. She said, it is horrible. And she said, touch yourself. God is healing that right now. Within 10 minutes, I had my voice back, and that was the first day I had a bite of food. And within the next several days, I gained 21 pounds that I measured. So here's what I mean by that. It was instantaneously healed. That day when I walked upstairs, the pressure on my feet, because I hadn't walked in so long, made the skin come off my feet. So why do I bring that up? I didn't get my miracle until I took action steps to be obedient to actually go do something. I wanted the wall to come down, but God didn't do the miracle until I was obedient to take the action steps to actually make that happen. Joshua, if you meet a guy on the street today in church and he says, man, my marriage is ending. I see what this is doing for my kids. I'm heartbroken. I've tried everything. I went to counseling. I've talked to my pastor. I'm praying, but she has filed for a divorce, and I see that this is going to end. And I love my family and my wife more than anything else in the world. And I just don't know what to do to save my marriage. What would you tell that guy right now that's watching this video that is thinking about checking out because he thinks his life is over because he doesn't see a path to restore his marriage, and he's tried some things and they just haven't worked?
First, I would tell him, don't give up. There is always hope, always a path to restoration. Second, I would tell him to get on a call with you, Denver, to see if your program would be a fit for him. Because your program, man, I'm telling you, it's absolutely life changing. It is absolutely life changing. Not just from a marital standpoint, but also from a personal standpoint. It is absolutely, again, I keep repeating myself, it's life changing.
That's beautiful. Where is your marriage at today? Are you in a thriving marriage? Are you in a happy marriage?
Absolutely. Hugs, kisses all day.
I would love to hear her experience of what she thinks it is. I've heard about you for a long time now. It's very, very nice to meet you with love.
You too. It's nice to meet you too. I haven't heard a lot. He kind of tried to keep you a secret.
Yep. So if you want to, Joshua went through this program with the intent of to change, to be a better man and to be a better husband. What would you say about Joshua's changes if you want to share any of that to encourage other men to take these steps too?
Since we've been back together, I mean, he's on top of it. I feel like I have a partner now instead of a teenager.
Wow, I love that. Well, it's very nice to meet you. I appreciate you sharing that with us.
Yes, sir, you do.
Joshua, for other men that are in your shoes, would you recommend that they take the steps of initiating the call, even if they think it's hopeless? Is it worth their time to get on a strategy session with us just to see if we believe there's a chance to save that marriage, even if they don't think there is?
Yes, absolutely. Because like you say, there's two different types of divorce. You have the paper divorce, and then you have the emotional divorce.
Yeah, and you have completely stopped paper and completely restored emotional part of the marriage, which your wife just confirmed that. When she said that you're on top of it, I mean, she literally confirmed that there's an emotional connection there now, and she didn't see that before, and you've already confirmed that as well. So that was beautiful that she was nice enough to come serve and share that also. So has this changed anything with your kids since you've done this, like your relationship with your kids? That's the only thing I didn't ask you.
Yeah, mine and my daughter's relationship has picked up.
And you see that was a change after you've been through the program as well?
Yes.
Guys, if you're in a similar situation to what Joshua's talked about today, you're feeling hopeless and you see like there's no chance, and you know that your marriage is heading to New York City, and if it reaches that destination, you absolutely are facing an unwanted divorce and you don't know what to do to turn that train around and save your marriage. There's a free resource that you can take advantage of today, and that is our free Marriage U-Turn Masterclass. You can register for that with the QR code that's on your screen. You can scan that if you're watching this on your Roku TV, or you can visit the website, which is denvergriffin.com/masterclass. We have limited seats available for that masterclass this week, so I suggest you go get a seat today, and there's no charge. Help us serve you and restore your marriage. Take the first action step today to exercise actions with your faith so that you can actually start turning that train around today. As Joshua would have never restored his marriage and stopped the divorce if he hadn't have subscribed to this YouTube channel. After you subscribe, hit the bell notification just like Joshua did and change the settings to all. That's the first step in restoring the marriage if you want to do exactly what Joshua just did. He saved his marriage, you met his wife, and now his marriage and his life are happy and thriving. Hit the subscribe button right now, press the bell notification, and change the settings to all. The next videos coming up are vital to taking the next steps to restoring the marriage.